Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen. I thought today I would give you the opportunity to see my face whilst I talk. Now, this may come as a bit of a shock for some of you, it may be quite pleasant for others. I hope you enjoy it. So, if you have been following my blog, you would know that I recently quit Facebook, and it feels great. It feels like a huge weight has been lifted off my brain and my body as I've been on Facebook for nearly 10 years. But also, it's very interesting to see how deep the addiction actually goes. Because it's been a week now, and even still in my mind, there's this pattern that just automatically reaches for the mouse, trying to click the Facebook shortcut that isn't even there. So, because I deleted it. And it's quite amazing how deep the addiction really was, and that was a big part of why I wanted to break away from Facebook, was because of how I noticed that it's a part of me that is just completely mechanical and automatic. I just wouldn't even think about it. I would just click on the shortcut on my browser, and then I'm on Facebook and I'm scrolling or whatever. Or, sometimes I would just do it just without even thinking for absolutely no reason. And I was like, this isn't where I want to be in my life. It doesn't feel very aligned to me, and I don't want to be doing this for 5 more years. So why not stop? Let's see what happens when you stop. And I feel like creating that space in my reality will open it up to be filled with something else. I'm not sure what exactly. Maybe more social relations in person. I don't know. But so we'll see what happens. I believe when you start to go deep into abundance in all aspects of life, not just financially, you have to be able to find out the best way to manage your time. And especially when you have a lot of free time, you may or may not have a lot of free time, but when you start to have more free time, if that's something you desire, then the way to be able to manage that becomes more and more important, especially if you want to be able to create your own business or create a passive income stream where you can live off of what you create and put into the world. Then you really do have to be even more concerned about how you spend your free time. But that's a big part of our life in modern day, is that we do have a lot more free time. So you could spend that, you could waste the entire free time that you have, or you could spend it productively, creatively, creating something, or researching, or looking into the deeper aspects of life, this world, and all of the everything in between. Because that's what I've done in my own journey. I have, since I started traveling especially, but even 7 years ago when I really begun starting to research these things, um, it's been very useful to use my free time effectively. And of course, that has just gotten better and better as time has gone on. And I seem to have more and more free time now. So that's good. When I was working as a CAD technician, I didn't have so much free time because as well I was working 2 nights a week at college, but I made that choice to be in that situation, and I still managed to do a lot of research even with having that schedule and have a social life um, and all that. So it's definitely possible, but you have to want to. You have to really, really want to be able to create a life of abundance if that's something you're interested in. Because I'm sure nobody wants to live in poverty, right? I don't know anybody who's like, yeah, I want to be poor. But why are so many people poor? And I think a big part of it ties in with the upbringing we have when we were children. I spoke about this in my Transcending Poverty Consciousness article, where I believe the programs that we receive as children can help to shape the world that we create for ourselves as adults. And if we don't do anything about that, then it can really affect our way of life in a negative way. And we may consciously want something, but subconsciously, if it's not aligned, then it doesn't seem to manifest. It's really a really big challenge. And I'd highly recommend the works of Bruce Lipton to go into the subconscious mind. He's done some amazing research and work on all of that. So, with an update with where I am now, I have just moved to Murano in Italy, which is right in the north of Italy, and it's near the Alps, which is just absolutely beautiful. I went for a walk up there recently, and it was just incredible. It really blew me away. So it felt like a really good time, new place, fresh start. Let's just quit Facebook and see what happens. And I'm now doing a 30-day challenge where I will learn. I'm going to attempt, see how it goes. So far, it's going quite well to learn two languages at once because here in Murano, there's not very many people speak English, which is a new experience for me, having only travelled in English-speaking countries. But that was part of the idea. I knew that was coming. But they speak Italian and German here, and maybe less than 10% speak English. So it's really, now that I'm here, I've been given the momentum, inspiration to learn the language. And I even had the opportunity, because I'm doing au pair, which is where you look after kids, you live with a family. New for me as well, I've never done this before. But the host even offers to pay for a language course, and at first we went for it, but then there wasn't any space in the Italian course, and we could have done German, but it was just, and then we went to a couple of places, but it just felt like maybe there's a different reason here. Maybe I'm supposed to learn the language myself, and also it just so happens that when I made that choice, I said that I will learn this language myself. You can save your money. She offered to pay for anything else that I wanted to learn. So interesting, that isn't it? I really believed when we tried to make the course in Italian and it didn't happen, that there was a reason somewhere because of this, like a good reason. I just found it because there's a Qigong and Tai Chi course starting. Or actually, kind of funny again. It was supposed to start yesterday, and I only found out about this 2 days ago. And so I applied for it, and they got back to me, and it's all sorted. But it turns out that they had to postpone this week, which I would have missed anyway. I wouldn't have. By the time they got back to me, I'd already missed the day. But it's postponed to next week, so it won't start until next week. So that's kind of funny again, isn't it? It's almost like they were waiting for me. So yeah, I was quite happy about that. So that's the sort of thing that could happen when you reject something in reality that doesn't feel aligned to you. Then it gives space for something else to take its place. And again, maybe that's what will happen with Facebook. I will continue to use my time more productively, and I hope to serve as an inspiration for people. That's why I share my life experiences through these mediums, to see or to show people that there is a different way to live. And I'm just getting started on becoming a digital nomad. I think I actually was doing that for quite a while without realizing it, but to be able to actually generate a good income source now is where I'm at. And I think to do that, I will need to get really, really good at what I'm already doing. So I've been doing a lot of research and looking into this subject a lot, and listening to people's talks about who are also doing this kind of lifestyle. And I find it really, really interesting, as I believe that will be where my path takes me for at least another 5 to 10 years. And I'm halfway through Steve Pavlina's Deep Abundance Integration course, and it's a really good course, and it's very reasonably priced. It's only $97 for 30 days worth of material, and it's over an hour every day that Steve is doing these. They were live calls, obviously you can't tune into that, but they were recorded, and I still find a huge benefit of that. Again, I don't agree with everything that Steve says. There are actually quite a few things I don't agree with on the way he sees the world, but that's very normal, I think, to not. I don't know anybody actually who I agree with everything that they believe in. There's some people a lot more, some people it's close to 90%, but still that 10% there, I do things differently. I believe in different things, and different things I guess would work for my body as well, which also speaks to how unique everybody's individual journey is, which I think is good to be aware of, because again, where I'm at now is I'm seeing what thoughts originate from me, what are my true thoughts and not what's coming from somebody else, from what someone else has recommended or says that this is the way reality works or this is how this works. And then I believe that. But then sometimes it works. Sometimes there are things I agree with. Like, oh yeah, that works for me and it works for you. That's good. But what actually, like what thoughts of mine are unique? What thoughts actually stem from the unique part of myself and not what someone else has told me? And I think that's very, very important because there can be lines of thought, information, or action that work for one person really, really well, and they may work for other people really, really well. And you may hear this and look, oh, look, these people are getting really good results of that. I should do that. And you really believe in that because you believe in the people or the person. But it actually could be very harmful for you. But then that same person could have other information that's very useful. So this is where I think awareness of the self is so, so important, so you can find out what really works for you. And then when you experiment with something, know when to drop it and to try something else because you're not getting results. So that's really where I am at the moment, is to be able to think for myself and have unique thoughts so that I can better navigate this life. Because I believe spiritual progression is really about that, is learning how to better navigate this life so you can have the most abundant creative life possible to you. And that can still be very challenging. It may not always be positive as well. It can have its bad days, but the curve is definitely up. There are more intense learning experiences, more joyful experiences. My challenges still are very difficult, but they seem to be a lot less negative now, as opposed to when 5 years ago, for example, when I was dealing with homelessness and drug addiction and trying to sell drugs to survive. I'm at a way, way better place now. So you can see that there is progression made. And it's interesting to think about where the next 5 to 10 years will go for me. And I hope the world still manages to keep itself together for that time. It's hard to say when the current way of living will die. If it has to die in some catastrophic crash, then so be it. But the future is not set in stone, and the decisions and actions that we do today really can have an effect on the future for tomorrow. It's very common to think about how, like, if you did that one small thing 5 years ago and how different your life would have been if you'd have done that. Well, you can also use that perspective for the present in the future. What small actions can you take today that will create huge changes in 5 years? As with the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, we really can have a positive impact on events taking place today and help to positively shape the future. Because when thousands and thousands and thousands of people, maybe even millions, all start to come together and work on personal development and spiritual practices, or just being a good person and helping other people, then who knows what we could accomplish? Because I believe that most people are actually inherently good. They want to be good. They want to share. But what happens is when people are tricked into believing into the negative ways of the dark side of creation, then they get trapped in fear and greed and scarcity, and they believe they have to compete against each other, otherwise they won't have enough for themselves, and it puts people in a very negative mindset. I mean, I had this story, and I don't know if it's true. I've tried to find it on the internet, but I haven't been successful. But it's about an experiment done with monkeys. So there was a group of monkeys, and they was given one banana, and they would fight each other to death over that one banana. But if you take the same monkeys and put like 1,000 bananas in there, and there's only maybe like 5 or 6 monkeys, they would actually take one and then try and give it to their friend in an act of sharing, and that kind of resonates with me. I wish I could find some actual evidence of such an experiment if it ever was done. But when I heard this story, which was around a campfire at a hostel in Ireland, I just was like, wow, that really, that's it kind of sounds like how monkeys would work and how people would work. Because when you are forced to fight for survival, then it kind of makes sense that you would compete against each other, because that's just how the basic fundamentals of nature have been played out for so many years. But if we're able to transcend that and live in abundance, as we as humans really could do with the amazing things that we can create, then it'd be so natural just to share with people. There's no need to compete. Why would you compete? It's a waste of energy when we have more than enough for what we need. Let's focus on enjoying life and being creative and discovering the greater mysteries of ourselves and the universe. That's really the kind of society we could have. And I really hope that we are able to somehow create a world where we don't have to go through some huge catastrophe to be able to then sort our shit out. Maybe if we can sort our shit out first, then we won't have to go through that absolute crash. But who knows? I mean, I for sure don't know how it's going to play out, and I don't actually know anybody who can tell me that this is exactly what's going to happen in the future, because no one really knows. We just make educated guesses based on the information available to us, and that's always changing. That's the thing. So what one person says is the truth for this year, next year it could be very different. So who knows what's going to happen? Maybe there are some people in the higher positive and negative 1% who have greater information that we are able to have access to here on the ground level. But I don't know. I just go by what I'm able to find, what other people are able to find, and that is that it's not set in stone. So what can you do today? What could you do in the next week to have a positive impact on your life and reality? Is it that you are trapped in a job that you hate and are just doing to survive? Because I was in that job, I was in that exact same position, and I did that for about a year and a half. That was my limit. Throughout that time, it was very useful in many ways, because I discovered about tax and the great scam that is income tax, and where the money actually goes, and how the government essentially is broke and just borrows money from private entities to be able to fund itself. And this is in the UK, but you could extend this model all around the world, as during my travels all around the world, I have seen that and speaking to many different people from many other countries that I haven't actually been to, the problems are basically the same. The government is just getting in the way of everybody's lives and actually doing more harm than good. The money system is the same. It's the same debt-based system that has consistently needs more and more interest paid to the national debt in order to sustain itself. And if you look at that model mathematically, it just can't carry on that way. So that's part of why people predict there will be some crash. There are many other reasons people predict such a crash, but maybe we could cushion some of that somehow. I'm not sure. I'm not a master in economics, but I do have a layman's understanding of it all. So it comes down to what we can do on a personal level to then affect the collective level, because we're all in the same problem, all of humanity really. Some of us are actually in the West, we are still way living a hugely luxurious life compared to most of the world, but still it could be way better. We could I imagine that the distance between us and the West, your average middle class person in the West and the starving people in Africa and around the world, the difference between that and to what we could have for, say, the difference between the life we would have if we were to live in abundance and creative harmony would be greater than the middle class to the poorest right now. For the average level of living, if we were to have an abundant creative living, would be so much different from the middle class in the West today that it would be greater from the poorest people to the middle class now. And if can you imagine what kind of life we would have if we were to able to use our technology wisely and create abundance and harmony We could clean this planet up so quick. I mean, of course, what's going on with pollution is very bad. Climate change may or may not be attributed to CO2 and man-made emissions, blah, blah, blah. We may have a small part to play, or there could be greater cosmic things happening that we just don't have control of. The Earth may be really pissed off. There are many, many things, but I'm certain that if we really put our mind to it, we could clean up all the plastic in the ocean, no problem, in a year. I mean, when you look at just an example, like during the times of the World War, I think it was World War Two that I saw the statistic. I can't remember exactly. I'm paraphrasing, but the time it would take to produce a tank was so fast because we were forced into it. I mean, the whole World War is a huge subject in itself about why that was created and how may have been, or I believe it was served from greater interests of the negative forces to control humanity and keep them down. And it was basically everybody lost apart from the top 0.1% of the world, of the negative side of the world. But that just shows you what we can do when we really put our minds to it. Unfortunately, that was through fear, but what if we were to approach it from love? And we should really, really get our act together, use our technology wisely, and be able to create abundance and harmony and useful technologies, not stuff that just breaks so it can be brought again, but actual functioning technologies. We could have, I believe, free energy to be entirely possible. And some people, you talk about this too, you can have a conversation with them, they're open to the idea, and they may not know the mechanics just like I don't. I'm not a scientist. But they're like, yeah, that could be true. I could see that might be possible. Some people just look at you like you're crazy, and I can understand that, because if you was to go back 200 years and tell someone there will be flying machines that can carry 100 people more, they will think you're crazy. They'll be like, no way, there can't be flying machines. What are you talking about? So I believe free energy will be one of these things, if we make it, in 50 to 100 years' time, that will be seen as completely normal, that was seen as crazy today. So let's build towards stuff like that, because one person really can't make a difference. You could be the person who creates the technology that then is able to generate free energy, or you could be the person who creates the technology to be able to clean up the oceans in a very fast and efficient way. Or you could be somebody who is a healer who helps heal somebody who then goes to create something amazing. Or, your part to play in this world could be something not so grandiose. You could just be somebody who is a baker. You enjoy baking bread and you feed the people who then create. So everyone part in society, when you look at it as a whole, is very essential. We need every aspect of, we need people for the food. And I don't believe one is less important than the other. And when we get into how we could have a different way of life, it wouldn't be so much attached to money. And so lawyers wouldn't be seen as so much more important than farmers, because you can't have the lawyers without the farmers. But the way we live right now, the lawyers are paid ridiculous amounts more, and that's just the way we are at the moment. I can accept that, but if we didn't even have money at all, what would this world look like? And these are all, they're things that wouldn't happen overnight, of course, given the way of life, and maybe they are what would happen after we would have a collapse of society, or maybe we'd have a monetary system that is more efficient and isn't based on debt and scarcity and inflation, etc., etc. We could have a much more efficient monetary system. So these are just some of the things that we could have, and I think it really does start with the individual making their own choices to build towards such a future. And it's still important to be aware of the negative parts of this world and what may happen in the future, just so you can prepare for it in whatever ways you can. But then don't invest too much of your time and energy into it. Rather, put that towards creating the positive. That's what I'm trying to do, because I remember back in my early days on my journey of awakening, I was very much focused on complaining about all of the problems in the world and instead of actually focusing on the solutions. And it's good to talk to people about the problems, so then you can discuss the solutions. But I was just very much into the base level conspiracy theories about the 9/11 and the banking system, which are all very true. But you try to talk to people who aren't ready for such information, and then they clearly show that they're not ready, or they don't believe you, and they will never believe you because that's not part of their life journey. But then you still keep trying to push them and push them and push them, and you have arguments. And yeah, that's very much what I was doing 7 years ago, and it was very the romantic rebellious stage. um but then for me, I've gotten past that now, and it's more about creating the positive side of reality. What can we create to transcend this way of living? Not just fight it and complain about it, but to transcend it completely and build something better. So that's why I have my website, that's why I have my YouTube, that's why I have my music. And I will continue on this life for forever. I dedicated my life to this cause. I'm not sure when exactly. It just sort of naturally happened in my mind, and I was like, oh yeah, this is me for life now. Unless, of course, um, we do somehow, I don't know, transcend this place, transcend this world, then I guess I could just focus on creating just music. But then it wouldn't be so have to be so I don't know, trying to wake people up. I don't know exactly where I would take my life if we were to transcend. So I would just keep going until we do. Yeah, so just to wrap it up, I have 9 months at this place where I am right now, and it's really good for me to have, because I have a lot more free time now, and my free time has almost doubled, I think. So this is really, really good for me. I will have a lot more time to do YouTube talks and articles and create music. So you will see more quality content from me over the next 9 months. And for any of you who are interested in the music I create, um, I'm now creating all of the music myself. I My first album, I was using backing tracks of other people and just rapping over the top, but now I will create the entire thing, and it's going to be well, it's very exciting to work on it, and I'm very confident that it's going to be a huge step up from my previous album. I already have 2 songs created, and one of them is very much similar style to my first album, but the second one is way different. It's very upbeat. I'm not even sure what genre you would throw it in. I don't even know if it fits in a genre. I just sort of created it, um, and so it's very exciting. And I hopefully will have that finished in the next 9 months. So yeah, I would just end it there and just wish you all the best. And let's transcend this matrix. What are we waiting for? Huh? We can do it. Well, what's the top 1% of humanity doing? What are they doing with their lives? You know, the positive 1%, because a lot of focus on the negative 1%. But what about the positive 1%? What are they doing? Because I'm sure they're doing some pretty amazing things on this world every day. So, until next time, goodbye.